Welcome to Rise with Rena.
Hello, hello. How's it going? All right, so that is bright. All right, let's make sure we're live streaming. We're supposed to be live streaming. Okay, that's better. All right. So this is my series. It's a 2026, and goal setting is pretty much everything, right? So what do you want today? All right. We have been modeled since we were children about what we don't want. And when I am coaching clients, when I am mentoring my team, it's like, I don't want this and I don't want that. So many times I've asked people, well, you started a business. What do you want from your business? Well, I don't want to lose money and I don't want it to take up too much time. And I don't, okay, we understand you don't want to be that. We understand you don't want to be unhealthy. What do you want? And so today, what I encourage you to do, it's a big day for me. It was the day my last kid was born. Um, so the 17th has always been a lucky day for me. But um, what do you really want? And only talk about that. Politically, what do you really want? And only talk about that. Don't talk about all the idiots in politics. Don't talk about all the idiots in power. No, you're not going to talk about that. You're going to talk about what you actually want. I want a peaceful, collaborated world. I want a world where everyone has a right. I want a world where women have a say and women's stories matter, right? So figure out what it is you want and then, see that. I want a world where every child gets to eat. I want a world where, um, there's safety wherever you want to go. My mom had this story about a trip that they took. I think it was back in the early 1960s, and they were able to drive all the way from Pakistan to England, back through the Suez Canal. And so, they drove through all these countries, Afghanistan, Iran, and Turkey, and, um, Bulgaria, and all these places. And the world allowed it. And so that's the kind of world I want, where you could just take a car and go, um, you know, all the way across the Gobi Desert to China, or drive across Russia, and people are nice. And, as long as there's fair trade, you can get a hotel, and you have the income, there's not a problem with safety and all that kind of stuff. Um, so last week I was in San Diego. And again, well, okay, so technically I flew across the country, but it's cool like to have something where you can literally drive from sea to shining sea. And I know it's like the same in Canada. You could drive all the way from Nova Scotia to, I don't know, Baja, Mexico. But I want a world that's safe, where you can get in a car and be safe and go wherever you want. Um, so, what is it that you really, really want? Because when we focus on what we really, really want, that's what happens. Right now, too many people are focusing on what they don't really, really want. They're focusing on the problems, they're focusing on the challenges, and that just doesn't work out, right? So, my challenge for you for the rest of this year, 2026, is only talk about what you want. So let's just say you're dealing with a situation with a tough family member. I don't know. Um, Instead of, this person is rude, this person doesn't listen to me, this person isn't caring, whatever, this person is stubborn, they're pigheaded, we don't get along. I would be like, what do you really want? I want someone that's cooperating. This person is going to cooperate. This person loves having open, honest communication. This person is going to love compromising. The solution I provide for this family dynamic is going to be so great that everybody in the family is going to be happy. How many times do we actually talk like that? And so I came up with a technique, and I'll teach it on another one of my lives. Okay. I'll teach it on another one of my lives, but I came up with a technique to get myself out of that state because 2025, y'all, how many people here are glad it's over? 2025 is over. Are we not glad that 2025 is over? Because it was a rough year for a lot of people, myself included. And so I really had to get the thought control. There is a base nodule right here on the base of your skull called the reticular activator function. Now, if you've not heard of the reticular activator function, it tells your mind what to focus on. Our eyes are getting about 4 million pieces of information per second. Our ears are getting almost 6 million pieces of information per second. Our eyes only process 40, yeah, 40 40% of the information. We don't even process everything. Can you believe that? Out of 4 million, only 40 pieces of information can we process at one time with our conscious mind. So what is happening with all this other information? It's going into our brains, and we've all had experiences where we don't remember things from our past, or then, all of a sudden you see a picture and it triggers this vivid memory. So it's all stored here in your body from the brain. My thing is the reticular activator function is the part of your brain that decides which 40 pieces out of the 4 million that you are going to focus on. And so there are so many options. There are so many options of what you can focus on. So there was a story of two salesmen that went to a very poor country, and they were shoe salesmen. So the first salesman got off of the airplane and walked outside, and no one was wearing shoes. So he called his head office and he said, "You know what? This is not the right market for us. No one here wears shoes. We shouldn't be here." The second salesman got off the airplane and looked and called the head office and said, "Oh my God, this is amazing. No one here has shoes. Everyone here is going to love our shoes because no one here has shoes and we don't have competition." So, same scenario, but they focused on something different. And what we focus on is going to matter. Now, the reticular activator function and what you focus on is going to decide if you stay in the prefrontal cortex, which is the front of the brain. Okay, so this is the part of the brain that humans have that animals don't have. So this is the decision making, the logical, the ethical part of the brain. Okay, or you can go into amygdala hijacking, which is fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So fight, right? People are very easy to fight, especially on social media when they think they're alone in their safe little house making comments. Um, Flight, uh, we see all that kind of escapism business, right? Into addictions, whatever people have. Fight, flight, freeze. Freeze means you do nothing. You just feel so overwhelmed and anxious. It's just like, I can't do anything. I can't handle this right now. Or you fawn, and fawn is the people pleasing. Okay. So this is that if I'm nice to you enough, if I sacrifice enough of myself, if I'm inauthentic enough to live by your standards, then you're going to like me. So fight, flight, freeze, or fawn are not good reactions. And those are part of your amygdala hijacking. So what we want to do is have the reticular activator function focus on things that keep you in the prefrontal cortex, which is your higher thinking power. Okay. So this is where you can kind of like think through the consequences of something. So when you see that chocolate pie and you're like, I want to eat the whole pie, and you have one piece and you're like, I want two more pieces, like you can think through it. Like, do I really want to do this? Right? Do I really want to go? Is this a decision that I want to make? Is this something that is going to be good for my body? So this year, say yes. Say yes to what you want. And I want you to monitor your thoughts. And if you are thinking about anything that you don't want, stop thinking about it. Just stop. Um, One of the interesting things about, Western medicine, because I've experienced Eastern medicine, I've experienced Western medicine. I've experienced naturopathy, everything. Western medicine, I love these people. They would always find problems with me. And I remember the last time I quit going to doctors, but the last one I went to was such a nut job. She basically said I was old and lazy. Like, told me that. So she was like, you're old and lazy. And so um it's not really a solution when someone gives you that kind of feedback, right? And after that, I just kind of quit going to doctors. But if you've got a diagnosis that you don't like, quit thinking about it and think about the opposite. So let's just say you had a test or I don't know, procedure and the news was not so good. Think about what you want, right? Every night I clean my organs in my head. Okay. I take everything that's out of my liver that shouldn't be there out. And you can do this energetically, but thoughts become things, and your immune system has its own intelligence, right? So use your immune system's intelligence to develop what you want. Now, I am living in a place where people constantly are getting sick around me, and I work from home, y'all, right? So, like, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? People are getting sick around me. It's not like I can go anywhere. So I just tell my immune system, like, we don't like germs. All germs see us and run. Um, I tell everybody, I'm such a bad host. Yeah, I'm a bad host. No germs want to hang out with me because I'm not a good host. They see me and they're like, we ain't going to hang out with her. You know, we ain't going to sit in that body. We're going to find a body that's a good host. So my mantra is always all germs see me and run. That's just it. All germs see me and run. All bacteria see me and run. All viruses see me and run. They just know bad hosts and they're like, yeah, let's go somewhere else and let's hang out with someone else. But anytime we get sick, you have to accept that diagnosis. And I remember when I was younger, I did accept some diagnosis. And you know what? It really didn't serve me. So now I just tell my body what I want it to do. Again, your thoughts become things. This is the law of attraction. What if we were actually born so powerful? So there's just a theory. Like, what if you played with this for 2026? It's a year out of your life. Nothing will change. Thoughts don't cost you anything, right? So it's not going to cost you anything to change your thinking. No one's going to know what's going on inside of your head, right? You're inside of your head by yourself most of the time, anyways. No one's really going to know. It's not taking any more energy to think about what you want versus think about what you don't want. It makes you actually feel better and gives you more energy when you think about creating a world and a body and income that you can actually enjoy, right? It's going to give you more energy. So what if this year you do what I did in 2025 and just thought about what you wanted, just thought about whatever outcome. Um, this month has been a month of some financial challenges. um, we just had things that needed to be repaired, and apparently, Virginia is top for data centers. So my electric bill tripled. And, when I saw that notification come in for the electric bill, and I was like, crud, I don't want to pay. But then I was like, oh, okay, the house is warm. I feel warm. We got lights on, the computer's on, the internet's on, right? All the good things that electric bill does. And I just kept saying, tons of money's coming my way. Tons of money's coming my way. Of money is coming my way. So every time you have that kind of like trigger, that I can't believe this happened, focus on what you want. Now, the number one way to focus on what you want, and the way I have gotten so much over my career and been able to help so many people, is with a trick I call goal posters. Now, some people call them vision boards. I just call them goal posters. My second meeting in business, I walked into this meeting, hooty tooty little 20-year-old engineer. And, in your 20s, you know everything about everything, and no one can tell you anything about anything because you know everything. Um, so I walked in as this hooty tooty little engineer, and they were talking about goal posters. And I was like, I've never heard of this. They said, listen, you take, you get some magazines. Okay. So remember, this is pre internet. You get some magazines, you get some scissors and glue. You cut out all the things you want from the magazine and you tape it onto a poster board. All your goals, all the things you want, you tape it onto a poster goal, and 80% of what you put on there will come true. And I thought about it and I was like, you know what? This is the absolute dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, this is so stupid. You mean to tell me I can go get magazines, take pictures of all this stuff, tape it to a poster? It was probably like, 25 cents for the poster board back then. And 80% of what I put on there, so most of it is going to come true. So I'm driving home going, these people are on something. They're high. I realized later they were high on life, right? But there's no way this can work. And then I thought, actually, this is so stupid, I'm going to prove them wrong. So I made some goal posters. Let me show them to you real quick. Hang on, I'm getting them. How old these are. So here's one I made. This one, I don't know if you can see it. You can see the cut and paste from the magazines. Some of the things have been ripped off, uh, but I decided to keep it, and it is uncanny how much of this came true. This was the goal poster that I used to get into my dream house, and so bizarre of how many of the things on this one came true. And then I wanted a promotion to the top 1% of company. And this is the goal poster I used for that. Now, back in then, okay, remember there's only magazines, right? So there was no Photoshop or putting my head on stuff. So I actually took blue 24 roll uh, camera film of different headshots of me. So 24 pictures of my head in different positions, right? So I could put them on that goal poster. And then I had all these extra heads of me. And some were big, some were small, and some were looking this way, and some were looking that way, and some were looking up. And because I was trying to imitate all the models there, right? And so I had all these headshots of me, you know, amateur headshots that I put on everything. I used that head, cutting out different heads and putting them on, that because that uniform represented the promotion. So I put my head all over that, uniform just to show that I had received that promotion and to see myself in that position. So, what could you do? What could you put on? Now my goal posters are a lot easier. I just do a pic collage. Okay. So I'll just go on the internet. I'll put a bunch of pictures. I either put them in PowerPoint or Canva, whatever you want, whatever is easier for you. And then I have them printed as 8x10 photos. So I have pic collages printed as 8x10 photos. Let me see if I have one of those. This is one from a few years ago, and I'll get like 6 or 7 of these. Okay. But it's really funny that I just happened to grab this one. But I have this kitchen now. That was the whole thing about I wanted to upgrade my kitchen, you know? And that actually happened. So it's bizarre because I'm looking at these pictures going, yeah, my kitchen looks a lot like that. Um, so, figure out what you want, and then you put them all on these pic collages, and I put them everywhere. I put one on the fridge. I put one right at my bed on the headboard. I have one on my bathroom mirror. I have one here at my desk, but it's just I see them everywhere. Now, there's going to be a point where they just kind of blend in the background. You don't really notice, but guess what? The reticular activator function, you're telling it what to focus on. You're telling it to give you out of that 4 million pieces of information, the 40 that are going to get you these things. So just try it. It's bizarre how much stuff has come true. I cannot even tell you. I mean, I remember once I put a cruise to Antarctica on my goal poster. That came true. I put an African safari on my goal poster. That came true. Um, and I can't even explain to you how they came true because some of these things, the way they happen is not the way you picture in your head. And, uh, of course, me being raised the way I was raised is just like, "Oh my god, where's the money gonna come from? It's so expensive. How am I gonna get the money? Me, 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 me." And all those little voices going off in my head, but I'm telling you, it comes true. Okay, now the weirdest one, you guys. Weirdest, okay, weirdest one. Um, about 10 years ago, one of my mentors was in a Hollywood movie. Now, he had a really big position in the movie, like where the movie was kinda about him and his work, but it was a Hollywood movie, and, yeah, I just thought, "God, it would be so cool to be in a Hollywood movie." But knowing my life, knowing my background, knowing that I live nowhere near Hollywood, in fact, it's a 6-hour flight to all Hollywood, I knew this is not for me. Let's just face it, people like me do not end up in Hollywood movies. Until last week, when I just happened to be at an event and met the director of a Hollywood movie that is casting me as an extra, and I get screen credits um, for being an extra in a Hollywood movie. So if you want more information, you definitely comment, and I'll tell you all about it, and I'll share all the crazy links. um, but yeah, but we film in a couple of weeks, and they were talking to me about costumes, so I have to send them pictures of what clothes I think I'm gonna wear and, all this crazy stuff. But y'all, that was just a thought, like, 10 years ago, and every now and then I think, "Oh my god, he's so lucky he got to be in a Hollywood movie," but, like, it's not something I wanted bad enough to actually put effort into it. No, I mean, it's just, I wanna be in a Hollywood movie. If it falls in my lap, and literally fell in my lap, fell in my lap, like, I don't even know how. I remember in 1989, I had, made a goal to go watch the ball drop at Times Square. New York's only a 4-hour drive from here, and, that year, weather was horrible, it was raining, but I really, really, really wanted to see the ball drop, and I just thought it was such a big deal to somehow go New York City. And then, for the next, what, 35 years or so, I was just like, "Oh, I wish I was there. I'm gonna go there sometime." I had gone to a conference in New York, I wanna say, like, maybe 2005, 2006-ish, right? I went to a conference, um, and we stayed at this hotel right at Times Square, right where the ball drops, and I was like, "Okay, I wanna stay at that hotel and, be in my hotel room and watch the ball drop from the hotel." Like, that was the plan, people, that was the plan, okay? Um, and guess what? This past New Year's, I got to watch a ball drop in Times Square from a hotel, not in the hotel room, it was a hotel party, but, all these little dreams, they can come true, but, tell your brain what you want, and when it goes down that thing, when you get triggered, when things go wrong, and I guarantee you, the one thing I can guarantee you is that if you set a big dream like I have this year, and I'm super excited, I am going to help even more businesses launch businesses than all the women that I have helped launch businesses, and not just in multi-level marketing, because I still think if you do not have a business, if you just working a day job and you do not have a business, you are so missing out on all the personal growth, because businesses teach you so many skills like dealing with people and dealing with clients and solving challenges. So if not, get in an MLM business. Hey, join mine. Um, but definitely get that experience under your belt because it's makes your life so robust. And had I not, that day when I was asked to start selling cosmetics as an electrical engineer, and I was like, no, I'm not a cosmetic girl, but they looked better than me, they dressed better than me, they were making more money than me. So I was like, let me find out what the deal is, right? But I am so glad I said yes because it like totally changed the course of my life, and those moments, those pivotal moments when you look back, oh my God, it changed the course of my life. So glad I said yes. But anyways, so I've got this big new goal and I'm so excited about it. But it's from a year of really, really, really going through a lot of rough stuff and focusing on what I want and coming out on the other side a victor. So let's do a wrap up of what we're talking about. And what we're talking about is getting everything you want in 2026. And how you're going to do that is that you're going to focus because it takes no money, effort, anything to change your thoughts. So focus on the things you want, not what you don't want. You have problems with family, don't focus on that. Focus on a solution, a collaboration. You have a problem with a kid, focus on the kid thriving. You have health problems, focus on a healthy body. One of the big things, like I exercise a lot. I go to yoga and Pilates, and I can do all this crazy stuff. In fact, I was at this event, and the photographer was, you know, sitting on a box taking photographer pictures of this bracelet of us of that says enough to let us know that we are enough. And I was squatting next to him and talking to him, and he's like, "How can you sit like that?" I was like, "Oh, I am," I'm like, I was on the floor squatting, on my feet, and he's like, "Do you do yoga?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do yoga." um, so I can sit in weird ways without it being in pain, and that's why you do yoga, right? That's why you do these kind of things. So, um, when I exercise, I look at it as dream time. So, of course, the whole time I'm exercising, I'm thinking of all the stuff on my 2026 goal poster that I'm going to do, and people. So I think of it as dream time, but I also am thinking about my mobility and my flexibility and what kind of body I want to live in because the only person that lives in this body is me, and the only person going to change how this body looks and feels is me. So you want to go ahead and live in that body that you really want. So whatever diagnosis, and I've had plenty, I just choose not to accept them. And I'm not telling you to do that. I'm telling you, visualize and go for the body you want. All right. So 2026, control your thoughts. Thoughts become things. You're going to think about only things you want. You're going to make a goal poster. You're going to make a pic collage of all the things you want. You're going to put it all over your house and look at it all the time. And I will be back in 2 weeks because next week I'm out of town. But in 2 weeks, we will be back for our Galentine's issue. All right. So make sure you tune in. Have a good one.
Stay tuned for the next episode of Rise with Rena.